What's up guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you how much a superpower persuasion is. We've talked about persuasion on this channel in terms of sales, in terms of marketing, but to tell you the truth, it's only 10% of it. Persuasion is an absolute superpower if it's used properly. We're going to react to a video today of Tony Robbins using persuasion to break somebody out of an incredibly negative cycle, break them out of a really bad rut that they're in. This guy, to give you some context, this clip that we're going to watch, gets up on stage and admits to Tony Robbins in front of everyone that he basically wants to himself, right? I can't say the words because YouTube will unfortunately, as much as this is an educational topic, YouTube will hide this content and make sure nobody sees it, right? But it's an amazing superpower if you do it right. And I'm hoping that by analyzing something like this, it gives you a few ideas for when you're feeling down, for when you're feeling in a rut as well. You know, persuasion's used for all sorts of things. It's used for detecting deception. It's used by the FBI for interrogations. It can be used to make people like you, right? As long as it's ethically right. It can be used to go into a restaurant and to get free food, basically. Now, it also can be used to help you hack your own brain. So it's a superpower. Let's take a look at the clip today and analyze it. I'll run it through first and I'll explain what's going on in it to you afterwards and why it works, okay? So here's the clip right here. Pay attention to the guy's body language who are about to watch now. Look how defeated it is at the start and look how confident it is at the end. Pay attention to Tony's language that he uses. I'll explain it all at the end and we'll go through and break it all, but I want you to watch it because I think there's something really cool if you just watch this clip through for yourself.
Why were you so?
It's because I can feel very peak states in life, but I can go so deep that I don't see a way out, or to hate myself.
What makes you hate yourself? Is it the red shoes?
What?
Is it the red shoes?
No.
Are you sure? Because they're red. Don't you be smiling like that. You everything up. If you smile like that too much, you'll want to stick around. I love that you have such high standards. But those aren't high standards. That's called perfection. And most people overestimate what they can do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in 2 or 3 decades. And you haven't been around long enough to have those extra 2 or 3 decades. So don't fuck it up. There's time. There you go. Did you feel that?
Yes.
What was that just happened? What just happened there when these came down like that? And you started breathing here too?
Start to believe in you and be open.
Wow, what an insane clip, right? Now, there'll be a lot of people who watch that clip there and they will think to themselves, I'm not convinced that wasn't a setup, right? But if you look at the psychology in the persuasion for people who've got an eye for it, I'm hoping that you've got an eye for it because you've watched quite a few of my videos now, you will see there's a lot of advanced persuasion going on there. There is a masterclass of persuasion going on just in these few minutes. Let's take a look at the video again and let's break it down and I'll show you some of the things which happen in it. Okay, so at this part here, Tony has just asked this guy why he wants to, right?
It's because I can feel very peak states in life, but I can go so deep that I don't see a way out.
So pay attention to this young man's body language right here. He is hunched over. When we just scroll back just a little bit, he's looking all around. He's standing, he's slumping, right? Pay attention to the slumping which is going on here. He is looking all around with his eyes. There is something called NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming. And basically what it is it's kind of a bit of a hypnotic communication type thing. And this guy has been asked why he feels the way he does. And he's looking all around the room. He's searching within his emotions. And you can see his bottom lip is sagged a little bit, which indicates he's highly emotional. Right. But the thing is when you talk about your emotions, you will often experience those emotions even more. So Tony has done this deliberately to try to get him to feel as much of those emotions as possible. So this guy went from, feeling his emotions to then speaking about it to then suddenly he's going right up right now in terms of what he's experiencing. Then look what happens.
I don't see a way out.
Yes.
And I'm looking for a way to get out of my body or to hit myself.
What makes you hate yourself? Is it the red shoes?
What?
Is it the red shoes?
Tony says, is it the red shoes? This guy is now completely confused. He's like, what are you talking about, right? It might just seem like a funny comment to someone, but what Tony's done here is something called a pattern interrupt. And in Persuasion, a pattern interrupt halts a person's automatic process. In our heads at all times, we have automated processes going on. Some of these processes serve us well. When we're going to hold a presentation, these processes might be like, I am completely ready for this presentation. I feel really good about myself. When you look in the mirror before you leave the house, sometimes you can think to yourself, I feel really good. I look great as well. And that is a helpful pattern that's going on, a helpful script that's running. But sometimes we can get a negative script that's running that acts almost like a virus. And this virus infects our system. It starts running scripts and processes that we just do not find helpful. And sometimes the scripts can be so bad that what happens is, in this poor guy's situation, the script that's running in this guy's head is telling him to, feel awful about himself and possibly go even further than that, right? So what Tony's done is he's recognized this script. He's got him to talk about the script. The script starts running. He then interrupts the pattern with a seemingly irrelevant question. Let's watch some more.
No.
Are you sure? Because they're red.
Pay attention to his face. He's now smiling. The script has been interrupted. The pattern has been interrupted. And he suddenly diverted his attention onto something else, right? Now watch what happens. Tony goes in with some very confusing advice at first, then some serious advice.
Don't you be smiling like that. You'll fuck everything up. If you smile like that too much, you'll want to stick around. You've been so hard on yourself. I love that you have such high standards. But those aren't high standards. That's called perfection. And most people overestimate what they can do in a year.
So pay attention what's going on. He's got him to talk about his emotions. He's interrupted his pattern, his automatic pattern there. And what happens is once you interrupt somebody's pattern, it creates a state of confusion. This is advanced persuasion that you're watching here, guys. Once this state of confusion has been created in a person, they will then attempt to make sense of the situation. So picture you are walking down a flight of stairs. We've all done this, right? You accidentally miss a step. When you miss a step, your heart skips a beat, the adrenaline suddenly fires up, right? And you grab onto the banister, right? To save yourself from falling and hurting yourself. But the thing is, that was a staircase example. If you were outside in the outside world and you trip over a bit of concrete, your arm would still outreach and it would try to grab the nearest secure, steady object next to it. That could be a thorn bush. It could be a bunch of nettles, right? It could be a Venus flytrap, but it'll still automatically go to grab something. So the same thing happens with pattern interrupts here. We can see this young man's pattern has been interrupted, and then what happens is he has started to fall because he's getting confused, and then he's tried to reach out to the nearest stable thing. And what happens is when you get your pattern interrupt, you get confused and you reach out for the nearest stable thing, you accept the next things as facts. These are hypnotic suggestions. My mom was a therapist for 30 years. She used hypnosis as well to help. Basically, hypnosis is helping a person. It's not like, as you see on TV, where people go and commit crimes and things like this, or they do it in like some sort of theater. Basically, a state of hypnosis is a very relaxed state where you just kind of let go. It's like a light trance, right? So this guy is confused. He's reached out for the next available piece of information. Tony has got his focus right there. And then what he does is he starts saying to him, basically, look, you're being a perfectionist. It's great that you are this way, but basically you're setting yourself up to failure. And he's saying these words and giving these guys this form of encouragement, but it's only effective now because the pattern's been interrupted. Have you ever tried to talk to a highly emotional person, whether they are, I don't know, drunk, or whether, it's in the middle of an argument? I used to work in a bar, and I used to see like a lot of arguments which would take place and like they would escalate because alcohol was involved. And there would always be one person who's trying to talk sense into the other person. But the person who was, being OTT, being a bit, exaggerating and being really angry, right? They would never be able to accept their information because they are too in their emotions. Their script is running it. The pattern hasn't been broken, right? So the pattern interrupt has caused confusion, which then allows Tony to actually give him the advice there. High level persuasion, which goes right under everyone's noses.
And they underestimate what they can do in 2 or 3 decades. And you haven't been around long enough to have those extra 2 or 3 decades.
Look at this guy's face. Look how much attention he's paying to him right now. He's listening with every part of his body because remember, he's falling, he's confused, and he's reached out for the nearest piece of logical information.
You haven't been around long enough to have those extra 2 or 3 decades. So don't fuck it up. There's time. And if you give yourself just a little bit of time, and if you'll be a little more loving to yourself, I think you're gonna find you got a lot to give.
Look at this guy's body language right here. Did you see the change there where the words finally worked? Because Tony talks to him for a little while after this, but the words finally get through and he finally starts believing in himself. And you can see this happen right on screen. Look at this. He goes from slouched over, nodding like this, to serious face. He understands the assignment now. He's taking it on board. Watch it again.
Find a way to enjoy a little bit along the way. There you go.
You see that right there?
There you go.
Now.
There you go.
You see that?
Did you feel that?
Suddenly, straight back up, focusing straight on him, not nodding anymore, all right? He's made the commitment in his own head there. This is high-level persuasion, guys. The pattern interrupt is a tool which is very advanced, has to be used right, should only really be used by professionals, but is amazing in negotiations, amazing in getting rid of somebody's negative mood or changing somebody's mindset or identity really, really quickly. Tony's done it very, very well here, and he's broken that negative pattern, this circling spiral that this guy was on. Fantastic example of persuasion. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to tell you a little bit about where a pattern interrupt had actually happened to me, and it dragged me out of a rut. And then after that, what I'll do is I'll give you a little bit of advice in case you get yourself into a rut, in case you have a script or something that's running in your head that you can't seem to get rid of. So about 10 years ago, I was around about my mid-20s. I was just going through this stage where I was in a rut myself and I could not get myself out of this rut. I tried loads of things. I know quite a lot of psychology, right? Even back then. And I tried loads of things. I was feeling down. I was feeling underconfident on all sorts of situations. I was not really happy with myself, to be honest with you. And this went on and on and on. And it went on for probably about 6 months or so. And I tried all sorts of things, meditate, go to hypnotherapy, get all these different, things done, right? And I decided I'm going to go away on holiday. Anyway, it got towards the end of the holiday. We went to this place called Lanzarote, me and my fiance now, my girlfriend at the time. Went to this place called Lanzarote, very sunny. It was beautiful pools, beautiful beaches, things like this. And I thought the relaxation would help me, get me out of that rut. It didn't help me I ended up finding myself sat by the poolside all holiday, ruminating on all these negative thoughts, just spinning scripts again, negative scripts again and again and again and again. Anyway, we booked an excursion, and it was a dune buggy excursion. And basically, you get to ride all these cool dune buggies across sands and things like this. And we just did it as fun. Now, if you've ever been to a place like this, you will know that, foreshadowing what's going to happen in the story here a bit, but you will know that these buggies and any sort of equipment on any of these, holiday destinations aren't usually maintained very well. So we end up going out in this buggy, and there's a bunch of us, right? We ride in a convoy, there's a few buggies at the front, there's a few at the back. We're going across all these cool sand dunes, these amazing paths, seeing all these great sights and things like this. And as we were riding, I'll put a clip in now of what that actually looked like. I believe I've got a clip from a few years ago. But eventually we started to climb this mountain, this mountain path that it's got this massive slate path, and we could only do it in single file, and it was a really steep path like this. And on this path, if you picture it, it was going up at a 45-degree angle. There's about 7 cars in a row, 7 dune buggies. It was dangerous, right? The driving instructor who brought us out, the leader of the group, he should never have brought us out that way because it was very dangerous. There was big valleys each side of this path, right? So if you were to, it would never happen because it'd be a real freak emergency. But if you were to skid off the path, you'd just go crashing to your death because it's like going up a mountain and you just go spiraling out, right? It's a narrow path with big sort of valleys either side. Anyway, as we're going up this path, the car in front of me, I'm driving, the car in front of me stalls. And no problem, right? It stalls because we can't overtake it because the path's so narrow and there's just valleys on either side. You have to put your brakes on and come to a stop yourself, right? No problem at all. So I go to put my handbrake on. The handbrake doesn't work. And I'm like, whoa, no problem. I've been driving for years. Put my foot on the brake and the brakes fail in the dune buggy as well. I'm like, shit. So we start rolling backwards a bit. So what I have to do is, for you guys out there who use manual transmissions, we have a clutch which we have to press in, we have an accelerate which we have to press in, and a brake as well. So I'm trying to pump the brake to see if the brake starts working again, because that's usually what happens with a car, its brakes fail, right? Eventually it can start working again. But I'm also having to control, I've only got 2 feet, the other 2 pedals as well, the accelerator and the clutch, so that I can keep going forward, because if I just start going backwards, I'm going to take out the cars behind me and I'm going to go straight over a cliff. Anyway, I'm panicking now because I'm like, oh my God. And I tell my girlfriend to reach over with a hand and to hold down the accelerator just gently so I can keep pushing the brake and pushing the clutch as well. Because again, I've only got 2 feet. And so she's reaching over like it's a game of Twister, right? And I'm about to turn around to the guys behind me being like, you need to somehow pull out the way here because I'm going to take you all with me. Terrible situation. I'm shaking. Friggin' adrenaline is like nothing I've ever felt before. But long story short, the brake eventually kicks back in and I can hold the brake, but I've started to slide backwards now. Luckily, the car in front manages to start its engine and it goes, so then I can just get on the accelerator and I go up the hill, right? We didn't die. I thought I was gonna die. Anyway, we get to the top of the hill. The guy who's leading it, the guy who's took us all out, lets us all get out of our buggies to take photos of all the beautiful sights around. And I go up to him like, dude, your brakes just failed on your buggy. I nearly friggin' died. And he's like, what? Doesn't believe me. I can see in his face he thinks I'm nuts. He jumps in the buggy. He goes back and forth really fast like this, slams the brakes on. Of course they work, right? And they work absolutely fine to him. And he's like, oh, you must have not just been pressing the brake properly. I'm like, bro, like my calves are cramping because I was forcing the brakes so hard on this buggy. Terrible situation, right? Heart was racing. Anyway, luckily, we drive down the hill. I drive back. My fiance, we were taking it in turns to drive because it's like quite cool to drive a buggy. It's a bit awkward, but it's quite cool. But she did not want to drive going back. So I drive. Luckily, we arrive all safe. I've never touched the buggy since then because I'm just like, dude, like I straight up nearly died that time. Long story short, I go to bed that night. I wake up the next day in the best mood I've ever been in my life. The cereal tasted better that I was eating. The days are just good. I had this new appreciation. And for the next year, I was in this amazing mood, right? I spoke to some of my friends afterwards, and some are like spiritual, religious, and some of them were like, you know, oh, God saved you that day. But from a person who studies psychology and persuasion, it's only years later that I realized what had happened there. What I think happened, at least my theory. I think I had a huge pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt so intense that it took me completely out of this state. I stopped focusing on anything that was negative for like the next year. It snapped the script in half, and then suddenly I felt very grateful to be alive. And you know, don't get me wrong, when I was feeling down, I was never as bad as this guy, but at the same time, I just couldn't get rid of these negative emotions. But that cleared it up all in one go, and I tried a million other things. Now, what I'm saying to you right now is, if you're feeling down, you're in a rut, we all go through it, right? I'm not telling you to get on the stage and speak to Tony Robbins in front of an audience, right, and get him to do a pattern interrupt in front of everyone, right? I'm not telling you to go and drive off a mountain in a dune buggy, because that won't be helpful to your health. What I am saying is sometimes just a change in environment, a change in things which you're doing, a break in the routines that you've got. If you have your day in a certain way, you get up, you eat breakfast, you work for a bit, you go to the gym, you know, do some other things, right? And you just have that as your general routine every day, and you're in a bit of a rut, rearrange the whole routine so it looks like it's something completely different. Add new things in, take things out. At times where I'm feeling unproductive, you know what I'll do? I'll go and work in an office instead, right? And I'll get more work done. And just a tiny change in environment, nothing serious, breaks the pattern of what I'm currently experiencing. It allows me to just proceed as normal. So if you're feeling down or feeling in a rut, have a think about what ways you could interrupt the patterns that you're running. What are some things which you could do to just shake it up? Sometimes that is all you need, because there's a lot of good psychology around changing your environment, interrupting your patterns, that actually works. Unfortunately, not many people talk about it, but I'm going to talk about it. And I hope this is helpful for you. And I hope you got a lot out of this video. Watch this again. That is a fascinating clip. And there's so much more at Persuasion in that clip that Tony Robbins did that, you know, I've not managed to talk about because I'd be here all day. But amazing, amazing examples of a pattern interrupt. And that's really one of the main driving forces of what he's done there, to get that confusion, to then put that person into that suggestible state, to then start giving him exact commands about how he should be feeling. All right, guys, I enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great week. Take it easy. See you in the next one.